The drive through Maple Creek Valley was quiet, the kind of silence that seeps into your bones and makes you feel like time itself has stopped. When I first saw the cabin estate, it stood like an ancient ghost at the edge of the woods, its roof sagging, the windows covered in dust, and ivy crawling up the brick walls like veins on an old man's hand. But something about it called to me. I had spent years restoring old houses, turning forgotten history into living stories. This cabin, built in 1873, was my next project. It came cheap, too cheap. The old owner had passed, and the property had been tied up in legal disputes for years before the auction finally cleared it. When I signed the deed, the clerk gave me a strange look. "Are you sure you want that place?" she asked. "Locals say it's cursed, or at least, haunted by family drama." I just smiled. "Ma'am, I've dealt with worse than creaky floorboards and ghost stories." The first few days were peaceful. I camped inside the main hall, swept the floors, replaced broken glass, and cleaned out nests of birds that had claimed the attic. Every nail I hammered, every board I sanded, made the place breathe again. But peace never lasts long in a neighborhood controlled by an HOA. I hadn't even finished restoring the porch when a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Out stepped a woman in her late 50s, her pearl necklace gleaming under the afternoon sun, her expression sharp enough to cut steel. Behind her stood a man in a neat polo, her husband, I guessed, and a young man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. She marched straight toward me like she owned the land. "Excuse me," she snapped, "what are you doing on our property?" I wiped my hands on my jeans and faced her calmly. "Ma'am, this property isn't yours. I bought it at the county auction last month. I've got the deed right inside." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "That's impossible. This estate belongs to the Hargrove family. My husband's ancestors built this land. It's my son's inheritance." She pointed dramatically at the young man behind her, who gave an awkward shrug. "I'm sorry, ma'am," I said, "but the county records show it was foreclosed decades ago after a tax dispute. No one from the Hargrove family ever reclaimed it. It's been public property for years." Her face turned red. "That's ridiculous. I'm the president of the Maple Creek HOA, and I assure you, this estate is part of our historical community. You can't just move in and start tearing things apart." I gestured toward the collapsing roof and moss-covered deck. "With all due respect, it doesn't look like anyone's taken care of it in decades." "I'm not tearing it apart, I'm saving it." Her husband stepped forward, voice low and threatening. "You'll be hearing from our lawyer." I shrugged. "Go ahead, but I've got every paper in order." The woman, Karen, as I later learned her name, glared at me like she'd been personally betrayed by the universe. She stormed off, heels stabbing the dirt, muttering something about outsiders ruining family heritage. That night, I couldn't shake off her words. My son's inheritance. What did she mean by that? Surely, no one could just claim ownership of a foreclosed estate after decades. Still, her tone wasn't just angry, it was desperate. The following week, strange things started happening. Tools disappeared from my workbench. My truck's tires were slashed one morning. Someone poured sugar into my generator's gas tank. It didn't take a detective to guess who was behind it. The HOA patrol car, one of those ridiculous neighborhood security vehicles, was suddenly parked across from my gate almost every evening. I installed cameras. I wasn't going to let a local tyrant scare me off. A few days later, while I was restoring the main staircase, I found something hidden behind the wallpaper, a locked metal box embedded in the wall. The metal was rusted but still strong. I pried it open carefully, and inside were dozens of old papers, letters, and what looked like a journal wrapped in leather. The first page read, "Diary of Evelyn Hargrove, 1889. My curiosity burned. I read for hours that night under the glow of my work lamp. Evelyn had been the daughter of the estate's original builder. Her words painted a picture of old family feuds, a mysterious disappearance, and something about a promise that would never die. The final entry stopped me cold. Greater than, Father said the land will always belong to blood. But I've seen what greed does. If anyone finds this, please, let this place rest. The curse of inheritance destroys us all." I didn't believe in curses, but something about those words made the air feel heavier. The next morning, I woke up to shouting outside. Karen had returned, this time with a group of HOA board members. She was waving papers in the air, yelling for me to come out. "Mr. Logan," she screeched, "you are trespassing on private historical grounds. This property falls under HOA jurisdiction as part of the Maple Creek Heritage District. You cannot modify or occupy it without authorization. I stepped out onto the porch, holding up my coffee mug. You're wrong, Karen. This estate sits outside your HOA boundary lines. County maps confirm it. I checked. Her face twisted with fury. This is our family land. My son is the rightful heir, and you're desecrating it with your hammer and your cheap paint. I glanced toward her son again. He looked pale, uneasy, like he didn't agree but was too afraid to speak. Karen, I said, keeping my tone calm. I'm restoring this place because it deserves to live again. Not because I want to steal anyone's legacy. Her lips trembled. You'll regret this, she hissed. I'll make sure you're banned from this entire valley. As they stormed off, I looked around at the half-restored porch, the sunlight gleaming off the fresh wood. Something told me this fight wasn't about property. It was about secrets. And deep down, I had a feeling that whatever was buried in this 150-year-old estate was about to change everything, for both of us. 3 days after Karen's outburst, I found my property marked with bright red paint. The words, "Private land, trespasser," were sprayed across my gate. Someone wanted me gone, but I wasn't going anywhere. By now, I'd restored nearly half the estate. The roof was new, the stone fireplace reinforced, and the garden, once buried under weeds, had begun to bloom again. Every swing of my hammer felt like defiance. I wasn't just repairing a cabin, I was reviving a forgotten soul. That evening, I went back to Evelyn Hargrove's journal. The entries grew darker near the end. She wrote about her father's obsession with keeping the land in the family, how he buried, a proof of bloodline, beneath the estate to ensure no outsider could ever claim it. The last line struck me. Greater than, when greed returns, the house will bleed again. I didn't know what that meant, but I was about to find out. The next morning, I woke to find 2 county trucks and an HOA vehicle blocking my driveway. Karen was there, arms crossed, looking triumphant. Beside her stood a stern man in a suit holding a clipboard. "Mr. Logan," he said formally, "we've received complaints of unauthorized construction and potential heritage violations. We're here to assess the situation." Karen smirked. "See, I told you, you can't just destroy history." I folded my arms. "I'm restoring history. Every modification is within county code." The inspector began checking his files. After a few minutes, he frowned. "Actually, Ms. Hargrove, according to these records, this property is not listed under HOA jurisdiction. It's private, and Mr. Logan has full ownership." Karen's smile vanished. "That's impossible. My family, my great-grandfather." The inspector shook his head. "The county foreclosed on this estate in 1983 for unpaid taxes. It's been abandoned since." I couldn't resist. "Seems like your paperwork's about as old as this house, Karen." She glared at me with pure venom, but I saw something else behind her anger, a flicker of fear. "You don't understand," she said quietly, almost to herself. "If he restores it, it'll come back." The inspector finished his notes and left. Karen followed, muttering under her breath. I thought it was over. That night, it started raining, hard. Thunder rolled over the valley as wind shook the windows. Around midnight, I heard something slam outside. I grabbed my flashlight and went out. There, in the pouring rain, stood Karen. Soaked to the bone, eyes wild, she was digging near the old oak tree beside the house. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted over the storm. She spun around, mud streaking her face. "You shouldn't have touched this land. You've awakened it." Before I could respond, her shovel struck something solid, a wooden box. She dropped to her knees and pulled it out of the ground. Inside was a sealed envelope and a small, rusted locket. She clutched the locket to her chest, sobbing. "This is my great-grandfather's proof. The land belongs to us." Lightning flashed, illuminating her face, and for a moment, she didn't look furious or hateful. She looked haunted. I knelt beside her, trying to calm her. "Karen, listen, no one's trying to take anything from you. But this place, whatever it holds, it's more than just ownership papers." She shook her head. "You don't understand. The Hargrove line ended with my grandfather. Everyone else who tried to claim the land, died before their time. It's cursed." I frowned. "You think this estate is cursed?" "I know it is," she whispered. "My father used to say the land takes back what isn't rightfully earned. If it's rebuilt by an outsider, it will demand a price." Her words sent a chill through me. I wanted to dismiss it as superstition, but deep inside, something about Evelyn's final diary entry echoed Karen's fear. We brought the box inside. I carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of parchment, its ink faded but legible. Greater than, to whom this land belongs by blood or by deed. Let it be known that the promise of the Hargrove estate binds the living and the dead. Whosoever rebuilds this home must restore not only its walls but its truth. Only then shall the inheritance rest. Karen looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Do you see now? It's not about ownership, it's about peace. We sat in silence as the storm raged outside. For the first time, I saw her not as an enemy, but as someone trapped by generations of guilt. The next morning, I decided to finish the restoration not just for myself, but for the Hargrove legacy. I repaired the last sections of the roof, replaced the shattered window panes, and restored the engraved plaque above the front door. When I cleaned the dirt off, the old family motto appeared beneath the Hargrove crest. Let peace claim what greed destroyed. Something shifted that day. The air grew lighter. Even Karen, standing at a distance, seemed calmer. She didn't shout anymore. She just watched. A week later, she returned, this time alone. No papers, no threats. Just quiet acceptance. I spoke to my lawyer, she said softly. You're right, legally, it's yours. But, maybe it's better this way. My family's fought over this land for a century. Maybe it's time to let it go. I nodded. I'll take care of it. I promise. She smiled faintly, her eyes glistening. Then maybe the curse is finally over. We stood in silence as the sun set behind the hills, casting a golden glow over the newly restored estate. A few weeks later, during final cleaning, I found one last note tucked behind the fireplace brick. It was unsigned, written in the same elegant handwriting as Evelyn's journal. Greater than, to the one who restores what was broken. Thank you. The land remembers kindness. I placed the note beside Evelyn's journal on the mantelpiece and lit a candle. The flames flickered gently, as if in approval. Karen moved away shortly after, leaving a brief letter in my mailbox. Greater than, Mr. Logan, my son doesn't want the estate anymore. He says it feels peaceful now. Maybe you were meant to find it. Karen, sometimes, when I walk through the cabin halls at night, I swear I hear faint laughter, a woman's voice, soft and warm, echoing through the restored walls. I like to think it's Evelyn, finally free. And though I never believed in curses, I've learned one truth from this whole ordeal. Some inheritances aren't meant to be owned. They're meant to be redeemed.